Hello, I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby, joined by Clancy Brown from Showtime's Dexter, New Blood. He plays the sinister Kurt Caldwell. And Clancy, I was scrolling through your incredible list of over 300 or so credits on IMDb, and I noticed
Wow.
just how many roles of yours are described as sadistic or sinister from films like Bad Boys with Sean Penn, Highlander with Sean Connery, and Shawshank Redemption with Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. So why are you so popular for this type of character? What's going on?
I think that's just overused descriptors, probably. I don't know. You don't want to really hire somebody that is sinister and sadistic. I don't think. I think you need to hire somebody that can just kind of pretend to be that, because making a show is pretty collaborative and can be a lot of fun. So. Um, uh, I don't know why. Maybe it's my voice. I don't know. It's the size. I really don't know why I seem to
How,
land those roles. Maybe I just don't turn them down. Perhaps maybe that's it. Maybe I'm sinister and
exactly.
sadistic in my fantasy life, and I'm living out some kind of fantasy, and that keeps me on an even keel. Who knows? Who knows? My God.
How familiar were you with the original Dexter when you were offered this reboot, and what excited you the most about joining this series?
I was actually not that familiar. I was a little afraid of it because I thought, a hero who's a serial killer, and plus, I really liked Michael in 6 Feet Under, and I, didn't want to see him be what I thought a serial killer would be. But it's kind of a remarkable show in that he pulls that off. It becomes so. He's such an attractive, horrible character.
Yeah.
Um, that so I once we started talking in earnest about maybe doing it, then I binged the whole thing and was just kind of blown away with how good it is and how good the writing was. Even the seasons that people don't like very much, I thought they were ambitious, and they were articulate, and Michael is a singular compelling guy. I mean, you think about in the history of TV, the actors that have managed to create two indelible characters,
Right.
and very complicated characters, not like just kind of fun jokey characters, just really complex deep characters, and make them attractive and make audiences want to tune in again next week. I mean, he's kind of a one of a kind actor, I think.
I mentioned earlier that Kurt Caldwell we're introduced to him initially because his son is missing. And the viewers at the
Right.
time know that Dexter killed his son, but Kurt doesn't know that. And he's a wealthy, influential man in town, and he's looking for answers for at least a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Were you fully aware, like how much of the script did you get? Were you fully aware of what his trajectory would become, or was that a secret that was kept, or how much about his life did you know?
Well, they were very forthcoming with everything except the last episode, which was
Oh,
fine with me because I was dead by then.
yeah.
So, yeah, it was. They gave me, not to say that there weren't rewrites and tweaks and touches throughout the season and before we even started filming, but I was pretty aware of the whole arc as it went through, and I thought it was pretty clever. I mean, the one thing that I really loved about the arc was that Kurt just thought he was the shit, and he's dealing with probably the most storied serial killer of all time, the most accomplished serial killer ever, and he thinks he's a big fish in a big pond, and that kind of gets undercut by the red herring of the guy in the helicopter, the mogul that comes in. So he's a big fish in a little pond. Um, and I love that about Kurt and the whole town. I love that whole touch because I've come from a little town. And
Okay, because that sort of leads into my next question is we do find out that he's a serial killer and he takes
mhm.
advantage of these women that are, desperate in some ways or underprivileged, and that might come from his own upbringing. We're not really sure at exactly what time in his life he's in, but
Yeah.
what pulls you into a character like that? Do you have to find a way to feel empathy for them in some way?
Well, I'm, luckily the way it was written, I didn't have to like manifest any, intense misogyny or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was because I don't like actually doing that. And the way that Kurt understood it was that he was actually doing them a favor. He was actually saving them somehow from. He was saving them from the cruelty of the world, and as Kurt understood it, his father, because his father was horrible person, and so he thought, okay, I've got to kill these women in order to save them, which is a weird kind of just very Dexterish justification. If because Dexter kills these serial killers in order to save the world. Kurt thinks he's killing these women in order to save them from the world. And as I said, I was lucky I didn't have to manifest any horrible
Right.
misogyny. It's always an act of kindness when he gives them the space and the comfort and the food and the money and whatever, and he gives them a chance to move on and to be, to get out of town, or he offers them a job, and they turn him down and turn him down and turn him down, or take advantage of his kindness and take advantage of his kindness. And so ultimately they're doomed. They're doomed because, Kurt's going to kill him, but he's also thinking that they're doomed in the world as well. They're just, they don't have what it takes to actually survive well in the world. And so he's going to do him a favor and kill him and preserve them and in their beauty and put him up in his basement or something.
Do you think Kurt thinks he's a good person? Because there are moments where Kurt also, he's very good with Dexter's son in some moments, and I don't know if it's genuine, but it some of it does feel genuine, where like just sort of building that relationship. Maybe he wishes his relationship with his own son was better, or his own father was better. Do you think there are pieces of him that are good, and maybe he thinks he is a good person?
Well, I'm sure he thinks he's the bomb, but I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he ever was a good person. I mean, these are all rationalizations that people use to do horrible things. Some of them are serial killers, some of them are politicians. I mean, it's yeah, no, he's not a good person, and he might think that he's doing the right thing in his own twisted way, but he's not. The whole thing with Jack Alcott, it was so much fun to play with him because he's such a good and sincere and hardworking young actor, and so it was easy to pretend to be sincere, which I think that's what Kurt was doing. I think he wasn't truly sincere. He was setting him up to take him out. I mean, clearly.
And Kurt and Dexter figure each other out as well, and it's sort of a chess game between the two. What is that as like an actor sort of playing that acting game of chess with Michael C. Hall? I love the scene at the diner where they're just kind of eyeing each other up and down, figuring each other out. What is it like going back and forth with him?
Well, they're kind of I mean, Dexter's figuring it out. Kurt thinks he's figuring it out, but he doesn't really know who Jim is. He never knows who Jim is until the very end. He doesn't realize that he's with one of the Mount Rushmore of serial killers until the very end.
Yeah,
he says, "You get me." It's kind of sad that he's going to be a victim now because he's found a comrade, a fellow traveler. But yeah, it's always fun to play those things, and Michael's so good at it. He's so good at that kind of interior, projecting his interior life and his mind on camera. It was basically just me throwing him softballs, the way it was written. And it was written well, it was written that neither guy was giving anything away. It wasn't too macho, but clearly, Kurt is in over his head. I mean, the audience knows that almost right away. Yeah.
So I've been a fan of Dexter from the beginning, but
have you?
The first person I've spoken to that's been strapped to his table. So I wanted to know, what was that experience like? How do you get prepared for that? Is it cold? How long does it take? How long are you stuck there? Is it claustrophobic? What are the details of that scene?
My biggest problem was that I would be tied down, and it's a pretty long scene.
Mhm.
And I would start cramping. My calf would start cramping, so I'd have to try to move that around. It's not too claustrophobic. It's you can get up if you have to, and they're very sensitive about it. I was glad they didn't strap my head to it. It's not entirely comfortable, no, not at all. But so what? Is it cold? I don't know. I don't know if we were cold that night. If it was cold, it doesn't matter because you're wrapped up in cellophane, and that can get pretty hot pretty quick. So, gosh, I don't remember being miserable. I'm sure I was. The worst part about it is always when the pretend blood starts leaking out and getting all over all over the various cracks in your body that are exposed.
So that's not special effects. That's real fake blood. And so do you have one chance at that scene, or is that because that seems hard to clean up if you have to do it again?
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing they do at night is pump the blood. I don't know how much was visual effects. Michael and those guys, Michael especially, is very accomplished at mastering the special effect of that scene. So, it always looks worse than it is. But he raises the big knife over his head and then freezes, and somebody comes in and puts the pretend one in, or the one without the blade. But it's it's a real knife he raises up over his head suddenly. That alarm in my eyes is real. I was letting the moment work on me at that point.
When you look back at that season, what was the most fun thing for you about joining it, and what was the most challenging?
Oh boy. Gosh, what was the most, the fun thing was all of it. I mean, I had fun with all those guys. The most challenging, I like it. It was fun and challenging. I mean, it was nice because Marcos Siega and Sandy Bookstay were terrific directors, and so they would work with you. If I came in with something wrong, they were very good about getting me out of my groove, and moving me in the direction that they wanted me to be. It was a fun set, and they were fun people. I think the most challenging, I know the most challenging thing about it was, of course, COVID and all the COVID protocols. That was really the most challenging that we had to deal with. There were some weather issues for sure. There were days where it was muddy and stuff, but that's also fun to deal with. For me anyway. I mean, I don't have to I don't have to do that much to fix those moments, but it was there were challenges for production. COVID was the most difficult, I think, but you get used to that after a while. If you keep pounding it into people's heads what they have to do. You test every day, and you wear your masks and do all that stuff. There was weather issues. There were days it was too cold and days where it was too warm, but that's not unusual. I've been through that before. And it was generally pretty fun. It was a good group of people to be around. We had a lot of laughs, believe it or not.
And you've had such a long career. And I was curious, what was your big break, and what was like that? What was that like? Was it Bad Boys? Because that's the first movie I've seen you in, but what was your break into acting that got everything rolling for you?
Dexter's my big break, man. Every every job is a big break. SpongeBob's a huge break. Gosh, the first film I did was Bad Boys. Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you booked that first gig? Were you like, oh my God, I can't believe it, or were you just expecting?
No. I felt really fortunate. I felt really excited. It was the first movie I ever did. I had never done a movie, so I was kind of interested in how it was going to happen. It was in Chicago. I thought I was just going to live in Chicago and do theater for the rest of my life. And we started shooting that film, and it had its problems, but it was with Rick Rosenthal was the director, and Rennie Santoni was in it, and Sean Penn, of course, and Esai, who I've kept in touch with, and everybody was young, and and full of beans, and you know, that was another fun one. It was intimidating and scary, and you know, when it was all over, I thought, I want to do more of this. This is the bomb. So I packed up the car and my dog and moved out to LA. And then my next big break was Buckaroo Banzai. I guess that was really the big break, when I really sort of was with a group of people that were proficient and knew how to make a movie and knew how to make a career of it. You know, you had Jeff and Peter and you know, Pepe Cerna, who'd been around forever, and John Lithgow. I met him on that film, and you know, I don't know, I don't know how to. I mean, every film is a big break. You know,
Yeah.
Walter Hill was one of my heroes, and I got to work with him, and I thought, you know, I can die now.
And
But
Kurgan in Highlander, that's one of those roles that grew over time. It's like a
yeah, right.
classic. People go crazy about that movie.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was just luck of the draw. That was just I just finished a film called The Bride, and uh, uh, Russell Mulcahy was looking for the Kurgan. They had offered it to Schwarzenegger, but he turned it down because he had just done Terminator. He wanted to play a good guy, and then Russell was a music video director, and he knew Sting, who I was in The Bride with, and Sting said, "Hey, you know, I think there's this big Yankee who's a Yank or whatever they called it, this bloke who I just worked with. He's, you know, he's coordinated and seems like a good actor." And so I met on that, and I was cheap enough for that. They were thrilled that I didn't cost as much as Arnold Schwarzenegger might cost. So yeah, so I just went and did that and kind of cut loose a little bit, which was fun because it was in England. So, you know, you could get away with everything in England at the time, Scotland.
Well, Clancy, thanks so much for talking with Gold Derby today about your work on Dexter New Blood and everything else. Best of luck with Emmys this TV awards season. Who knows? And to our viewers watching, head over to goldderby.com, make your own Emmy Awards predictions, and check out more interviews with top contenders like Clancy. And thanks again for chatting with us today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it.